So Dak Prescott is extended by the Dallas Cowboys. That news came down just moments before kickoff between the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys. And before I jump really deep into the Dak Prescott extension, I just got to say right off the bat, the most impressive win on Sunday and potentially the most impressive win of week one was the Dallas Cowboys. And this is why I've had the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East, and it's why I do not have the Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles are too much back and forth. I can't trust them, and believe it or not, the more steady Eddie organization is the Dallas Cowboys. If you had asked me on Friday or on Saturday or before kickoff, who would I have winning this game between the Browns and the Cowboys? I might say the Cowboys. I might lean Browns. Deshaun Watson is abysmal, but I've just got to be honest. The Dallas Cowboys going into Cleveland and dismantling the Cleveland Browns, who were a playoff team last year, a Cleveland Browns team that had one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, they dismantled them. They are the organization that you can easily get your arms around. The Philadelphia Eagles, I know they won last week. It was a really weird game. It was in Brazil. The turf was weird. Jordan Love gets injured. It was just a weird game as a whole. I was left with more questions than answers if you're just comparing between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Dallas Cowboys being able to immediately go over there and shut up the Cleveland Browns was insanely impressive. The pass rush looked lethal. DeMarcus Lawrence had 2.5 sacks. Micah Parsons was unblockable. And it looks like Mike Zimmer has really got this defense humming. And probably the most underrated coaching hire over the whole offseason carousel was probably Mike Zimmer. I mean, he was dialing it up on Sunday. And Deshaun Watson looked confused. He had no time in the pocket, bottling up those receivers. And they got some good guys. Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku played for most of that game. Jerome Ford is there. He's a more than capable back. I know the Browns lost a couple of offensive linemen, but still, just a thorough beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys to the Cleveland Browns. Now, before that, if you rewind that game a little bit, Dak Prescott gets his extension. And immediately there's this outcry, and I really tried to stay away from the groupthink. But immediately what you see is this $60 million a year average annual value. And then you see how much money was given up front, and then you start to realize, oh, this contract, it's just costing them a ton right now, but Dak Prescott's cap hit likely won't be as punitive or as suffocating to allow them to be able to get more players down the road. It is a more than worth it contract for a Dallas Cowboys team that was not prepared for a future without Dak Prescott. Here is why, and the biggest reason, and something that I've been pounding and something that I've been hitting the table for weeks on end, was you had to re-sign Dak Prescott. Because Dak Prescott gives you relevancy. Dak Prescott gives you stability at a quarterback position. This is not the Atlanta Falcons. This is not the Cleveland Browns. You can't be garbage in the Dallas. You have to be formidable. You have to be good enough to at least stop everyone from coming after you week in and week out at a national media basis. You can't have Cooper Rush out there leading the Dallas Cowboys. This is, quote-unquote, America's team. Relevancy matters if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And what does Dak Prescott do? Stability, relevancy. Because of the signing bonus that Dak Prescott got, which was like $80 million or something insane, Dak Prescott's cap hit will never be that big. And yeah, do we have issues with him in January and I would say February, but they never make it that far? Sure. But the truth is the Dallas Cowboys were not well equipped for a future without Dak Prescott. What did you want them to do? Run it out with Trey Lance? Did you see how bad Trey Lance was? And they're going to be good enough this year to where they don't have a draft pick bad enough for them to be able to go get a quarterback. And if you were of the belief that Shedeur Sanders was the fix for the Dallas Cowboys, did you watch the Cornhuskers Colorado Buffaloes game the other day? Listen, you might have your issues with Dak Prescott, and so do I at times. But I can't deny that he brings relevancy and he brings stability to a quarterback position on a franchise that desperately needs it. In a division that is incredibly winnable. I have my severe doubts of the Commanders. The Giants are a tire fire, and the head coach and the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles do not like each other. Dallas Cowboys, with them extending Dak Prescott, allows them to stay relevant, allows them to stay viable in the division. And since they will have Dak for the foreseeable future, it can then allow them to be able to start planning ahead a year or two down the line, which they should have already done 3 years ago when this Dak Prescott contract had started to kick in. They can plan for life outside of Dak without being irrelevant. That is what this contract does. So immediately looking at it and just shaming the contract is immediate fanboy, groupthink, microwave take. Now, with all of our issues with Dak Prescott, I believe you can't win multiple playoff games in the same year with him. But what else were they going to do? Were they going to trade for a quarterback? What quarterback was available? Were they going to sign one? Dak's the only one available next year. Were they going to draft one? This quarterback draft doesn't look very good, and the Dallas Cowboys were not going to be good enough to get a quarterback this year in the draft. So before you just ragtag and make fun of the Dallas Cowboys, remember what happened this weekend. They went over to Cleveland in an East Coast game, East Coast time zone, on week 1 and stomped the lights out of them. And they showed they're not just a home team. And Mike Zimmer and company and Dak Prescott and company bring stability and relevancy to a franchise that is going to win the division this year, is going to have a playoff appearance. And at that point, who knows? Anything can happen in the NFL. No one thought the Packers were going to beat the Dallas Cowboys last year outside of me. Dak brings relevance. He brings leadership. He brings stability. The contract is in no way a net negative.